Hello, welcome back to week 2, our second upper intermediate online English class. My name is Mr. Nicky. I hope you got on all right with the first lesson last week, that you're able to understand it and benefit from it. We're carrying on that work this week, so we're in the Solutions Advanced textbook, still on Unit 7, looking at journeys, and specifically page 72. If you don't have your textbook with you, don't panic. All of the information that you will need is in the PowerPoint today, it's in the presentation. But if everybody can make sure that you have a notebook handy, that's a good place. Equally, like last week, I might ask you to pause the video in certain places. This might be to do some speaking, might be to practice pronunciation, or might be just to have some time to complete the exercises in the book. If this is with exercises in the book, please, I'm going to be giving answers afterwards, but make sure you have a go yourself first, so that we can see if your answers match. That's how we're going to get the most out of these classes. Okay, let's get started. So, this is the page we should be looking at if you've got the textbook. Our objectives today are, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to recall and practically use all travel vocabulary. This will include a review of last week's vocab towards the end. We also need to be able to identify the main messages from some voice recording. This is the listening section. And lastly, the third one, to be able to soften an idea and make it less precise. This maybe sounds a little bit strange because usually we say that we want to be accurate, we want to be precise with what we're saying. However, there are some instances where it might be nice to be sort of slightly less precise. Maybe if we're uncertain of something, we're just making a suggestion. This also kind of links over to the writing work that you're going to be doing. We often soften ideas when we say negative things to people or when we have negative feedback to say, and your writing is going to be looking at reports which might involve some negative feedback. So that kind of crosses over the two disciplines there. Okay, so first up, speaking. You should be able to see on the screen now, we've got a chart with the top 10 tourist destinations in the world, which is measured by the number of visitors in millions. I presume that's every year. So in 10th place we have Russia, in 9th Austria, 8th Mexico, 7th Germany, 6th the UK, 5 with 41.1 million is Italy, in 4th with 49.6 million China, the USA coming in 3rd, 51.1 million, Spain 58.5 million, and the leader by quite a long way, France, with 79.1 million. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about the data on screen. Please, after each question, pause the video, give your answer verbally. I obviously won't be able to hear it, but it's good practice anyway. Okay, so question 1. Do any of these statistics surprise you, and why? Please pause the video now to answer. Okay, question number 2. Are there any notable emissions? Are there any countries which you would expect to be on the list that are not? And why do you think that is? Pause the video again now, please. Okay, so we're going to add now these 4 pictures. These 4 pictures relate to the data in the chart that we've just looked at. So we need to match them and answer a couple of questions about them. Again, please pause the video to answer verbally. So, have a look at picture number 1, please. Do you know where this place is? Do you know anything about this place? Would you like to visit it, and why? Please pause the video to answer. Number 2, can you guess where this place is? Can you give me information about it? Would you like to visit here, and why? Please pause the video again. Okay, picture number 3. Have you got any idea where this is? Can you tell me any information about it? Would you like to visit there, and why? And last one, picture 4. Can you tell me which country this is in? Can you tell me any information about it? Would you like to go there, and why? Okay, hopefully you were able to complete those questions. We're going to move on now to a little bit of listening. If you have the book, it looks like this. There are going to be 3 speakers that you're going to hear, and they're going to talk about journeys or holidays or trips that they would like to go on. Within each of these speeches, they will touch on 2, 3, or 4 of these topics. So they're listed 1 to 10. Your job is to recognize what they are speaking about and put the appropriate number next to the speaker. So, for example, if speaker 1 wants to go to Dubai to see the Burj Khalifa, that would be to do with architecture. You would put number 1. Equally, if speaker 2 wants to go to China to go and taste some of the food or to go and try local delicacies, that would be number 4. Okay. There's 3 or 4 for each speaker. We're going to listen through. If you need to listen a second time, you can always rewind and listen again. And then once you're finished with that, I'll give the answers on the next slide.
Unit 7, B, exercises 3 and 5. Speaker 1, Susan.
One place that I would really like to go and visit is Iceland. I think it would be really exciting to go there because it's a place I don't know too much about and it just kind of seems quite exotic. It might not be the most popular destination for a holiday, but for me it'd be a place well worth paying a visit because I'm really interested in doing outdoor activities. And I think that would be a great place to go and do things like glacier hiking, whitewater rafting, or that kind of thing. And I also think there are so many interesting things to go and see in terms of, spectacular geographical features, because there's a lot of volcanoes, glaciers, and a lot of geothermal activity. So there's things like geysers that you can go and see. And I'd also be interested to meet some Icelandic people. It's always fascinating seeing how other people live and to sample a bit of the Icelandic cuisine because I'm not sure what that would be like.
Speaker 2, Martin.
I'd really love to go to Peru and walk the Inca Trail. The Inca Trail is a 4-day hike through the jungle and then up through the Andes, ending up at Machu Picchu, which is an ancient Inca city high up in the mountains. I'm really interested in the Incas and their civilization, how it developed, how the people lived, how they were conquered by a small group of Spanish soldiers in, I think, the 16th century. I've got friends who've done the trail and I've seen their photos and talked to them about it, and they say it's just a really incredible experience. I'm sure I'd find it really exhilarating trekking through the mountains at high altitude. The scenery is spectacular. You camp in the jungle, eat round the campfire. You need a good level of fitness because you're walking at an altitude of 4,000 metres or something like that. And it's hard work lugging all your equipment with you, but in a way it will be an experience of self-discovery and a journey where I could really test myself and find out my own levels of stamina and endurance or whatever.
Speaker 3, Ralph.
What I'd like to do is spend a month backpacking around Europe. My brother did that last summer. He got an Interrail card which allows you to travel on trains all over Europe. The card costs about £300, I think. Something like that. But it's amazingly good value because you can go virtually anywhere for a whole month. Obviously, it'd be crazy attempting to get to every country inside a month, so I'd limit myself to maybe 8 or 10 places. I'd definitely go to Italy, France and Spain. I'd love to see the old Roman ruins in Italy and also visit the museums and galleries and see all those great paintings. I'm studying Italian at school, so it would be a good opportunity to practice and sort of get a bit more fluent. I actually think it would be fun backpacking on my own. A real adventure. I don't think I'd be lonely, because you meet loads of other people doing the same thing. When my brother did it, he hooked up with some guys from Denmark, and they spent a week travelling together. I couldn't afford to stay in hotels, so I'd probably try to get overnight trains. It's a bit of a pain keeping on the train, but I'll survive, I'm sure.
Hopefully these headphones are back on and you can hear me again. I really hope so. Part 3, listening. We're going to go through the answers now. So if there were any that you did not get there, please listen again, try and complete it before coming through to this part. If you've got answers for every speaker, this is what you should have. Next to speaker 1, you should have the numbers 4, 6, 8, and 9. Susan said she wanted to sample some of the cuisine, which is number 4, food. She wanted to see volcanoes, glaciers, and geysers, which is number 6, landscape. She wanted to meet Icelandic people, which is number 8. And she wanted to do some outdoor activities, which is glacier hiking and whitewater rafting. Speaker 2, she said she wanted to find out about the Inca civilization. This is a mix of cultural activities and history, 3 and 5. He also said he wanted to see the spectacular landscape, which would be 6. He wanted to go trekking, which was outdoor activities, and he wanted to test himself to find out his stamina levels, which would be a personal challenge, number 10. The final speaker wanted to visit the old Roman ruins in Italy, that's number 5, history. Wanted to visit the museums and galleries, which are cultural activities, number 3. He wanted to practice Italian, which is improving his language skills, and he wanted to meet loads of people, which is number 8. Okay? Hopefully you got all of those correct. If you did, very well done. Okay, briefly we're going to talk about ing form with preparatory it. We're not going to go through it in too much detail because I think it's quite a simple structure and I think you'll be all familiar with it already. Okay, so it can be used as a preparatory subject or object for an ing form, especially in an informal style. Here's an example sentence. It was amazing walking along the Great Wall of China. Now, the reason we make this a little bit more informal, if we were starting our sentence with walking along the Great Wall of China was amazing, it's quite a long subject, and actually it's a bit more informal. It was amazing walking along the Great Wall of China. Okay, have a look at the next one. It's fun traveling with friends. Okay, again, it there refers to the traveling with friends. We're shortening it, making it easier, making it more informal. It's no good just staying in hotels. I'd find it strange being on my own in a foreign country. It'd be tiring traveling non-stop to the south of Italy. So again, you can see there, each of the subjects or objects in the sentence are quite long. So we've shortened it by using it and then referring to it later in the sentence. This last one's a little bit different. It says, it's well worth visiting Paris. Now, visiting Paris is shorter than any of the other previous ones, and therefore we could just write this sentence the other way around and say Paris is well worth visiting. Again, looking at that, I would probably say that the first is more informal, the second is more formal, but, you know, that's slightly down to personal preference and opinion. Okay, it's a subjective thing there. Either would be fine. Okay. Moving on from that, we're going to put some of our today's vocabulary with some grammar. These are all words that you would have heard in the listening that we've just completed. The first word is kip. It's a verb. It means to sleep or nap. I would say that actually nap is a closer synonym. We wouldn't really call a long sleep a kip. So, for example, if you slept all night, you wouldn't say I had a kip all night. It's much more synonymous with having a nap. Having short sleep would be a kip. The next verb, lug, to carry or drag something heavy. We often talk about this when we're sort of talking about carrying suitcases and things like this, and that's quite a handy way to remember this one. Another word for suitcase is luggage. and we luggage. We drag it, we carry it. It's very heavy. These ones you may be familiar with, but we're going to recap anyway. Backpack as a verb. We obviously all know it as a noun. However, it was also a verb, which means to travel to multiple places with just a backpack full of possessions. Word number 4 is trek, which is to walk a long distance. We heard about Martin talking about trekking in Peru. He wanted to go to the Inca Trail. That's definitely a trek. Okay, the other 2 words we've got, the end there, attempt and pay. I'm guessing you already know those and quite familiar with them. So there are 7 words there, 7 verbs. You need to add ing to each of those words. Pay attention to some of them. You may have to double up the final consonant of the word in some cases, and then fill in the gaps to complete the sentences. So please pause the video now to do that, and on the next slide, I will give you answers. Thank you. Okay, answer time. Sentence number 1. Paying. For me, it'd be a place well worth paying a visit because I'm really interested in doing outdoor activities. Number 2. Seeing. It's always fascinating seeing how other people live. Number 3. Trekking. I'd find it really exhilarating trekking through the mountains at high altitude. Number 4. Lugging. It's hard work lugging all your equipment with you. Beg your pardon. Number 5. Attempting. Obviously, it would be crazy attempting to get every country inside a month. Number 6. Backpacking. I actually think it would be fun backpacking on my own. A real adventure. And last one, kipping. It's a bit of a pain kipping on the train, but I'll survive, I'm sure. Okay, hopefully you got all of those. If you did, very well done. Okay, next section now is about softening ideas. Now, we hear this in a few of the listening passages that we've just been to, where people are sort of talking about things that they'd quite like to do in the future, but they haven't sort of 100% made their mind up about it. They're not saying definitely, I will go to the Inca Trail, okay? We're softening these thoughts slightly. I'd like to trek the Inca Trail or something like that. It doesn't have to be that, but something similar is appealing, okay? So in the textbook, you will see there are a variety of ways we can soften an idea with some phrases, okay? We've got things such as a bit of a, in a way, in one way or another, just kind of, sort of, or something along those lines, or that kind of thing, or something like that. Now, what I'd like you to do, before we look any more in detail at this and have your own turn, is look at these sentences that we just filled in on the previous slide. Okay, so that's section 4. Have a look, see if you can see any instances in those sentences where the speaker has softened an idea using a word or phrase similar or the same as we see on the board now. If you can find something, give it a quick highlight. Pause the video now to complete that, please. Okay.
Unit 7, B, Exercises 3 and 5. Speaker 1, Susan.
One place that I would really like to go and visit is Iceland. I think it would be really exciting to go there because it's a place I don't know too much about and it just kind of seems quite exotic. It might not be the most popular destination for a holiday, but for me it'd be a place well worth paying a visit because I'm really interested in doing outdoor activities. And I think that would be a great place to go and do things like glacier hiking, whitewater rafting or that kind of thing. And I also think there are so many interesting things to go and see in terms of, spectacular geographical features, because there's a lot of volcanoes, glaciers, and a lot of geothermal activity. So there's things like geysers that you can go and see. And I'd also be interested to meet some Icelandic people. It's always fascinating seeing how other people live and to sample a bit of the Icelandic cuisine, because I'm not sure what that would be like.
Speaker 2. Martin.
I'd really love to go to Peru and walk the Inca Trail. The Inca Trail is a 4-day hike through the jungle and then up through the Andes, ending up at Machu Picchu, which is an ancient Inca city high up in the mountains. I'm really interested in the Incas and their civilization, how it developed, how the people lived, how they were conquered by a small group of Spanish soldiers in, I think, the 16th century. I've got friends who've done the trail, and I've seen their photos and talked to them about it, and they say it's just a really incredible experience. I'm sure I'd find it really exhilarating trekking through the mountains at high altitude. The scenery is spectacular. You camp in the jungle, eat round the campfire. You need a good level of fitness because you're walking at an altitude of 4,000 metres or something like that. And it's hard work lugging all your equipment with you, but in a way it will be an experience of self-discovery and a journey where I could really test myself and find out my own levels of stamina and endurance or whatever.
Speaker 3. Ralph.
What I'd like to do is spend a month backpacking around Europe. My brother did that last summer. He got an Interrail card which allows you to travel on trains all over Europe. The card costs about £300, I think. Something like that. But it's amazingly good value because you can go virtually anywhere for a whole month. Obviously, it'd be crazy attempting to get to every country inside a month, so I'd limit myself to maybe 8 or 10 places. I'd definitely go to Italy, France and Spain. I'd love to see the old Roman ruins in Italy and also visit the museums and galleries and see all those great paintings. I'm studying Italian at school, so it would be a good opportunity to practice and sort of get a bit more fluent. I actually think it would be fun backpacking on my own. A real adventure. I don't think I'd be lonely, because you meet loads of other people doing the same thing. When my brother did it, he hooked up with some guys from Denmark, and they spent a week travelling together. I couldn't afford to stay in hotels, so I'd probably try to get overnight trains. It's a bit of a pain keeping on the train, but I'll survive, I'm sure.
Okay, so having listened to that, we should have heard a few of those softened ideas as it went through. There's now 5 sentences on the screen. What I'd like you to do is pause the video and just have a practice. Use some of the phrases that we've got on the left and add those into some of the sentences we've got on the right and try speaking them through a few times to soften them. If you pause the video to do that, and I'll give you a few examples when we come back. Okay, so one example we could do, let's have a look at sentence 1. Paris, Rome and Madrid are good places to visit. We could add something like, or that kind of thing. Okay, Paris, Rome and Madrid, or that kind of thing are good places to visit. That now means that we're not kind of limiting our options to just Paris, Rome and Madrid. We're just sort of maybe generally talking about European cities. Number 2, I'd like to travel around the world. Very short, we could add something like just kind of. I'd just kind of like to travel around the world. Maybe there's not a particular reason why, I'd just kind of like to. Okay, so those are a couple. A lot of those are applicable to any of the sentences, so I'm sure you're able to do that successfully. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we're going to have a quick review, which is going to involve the vocab from last week. So I'm going to put the word on the screen. Please just have a little think in your head. You don't need to pause the video for this. In sort of 5 to 10 seconds, what was the particular definition of that word? You don't need to write it down. If you're happy that you understand it, that's fine by me. Okay? So the first word, a break. Okay, hopefully you're familiar with that. If you can remember that, that's excellent. We're going to continue. An expedition. What was special about an expedition? Number 3, an excursion. Quite easy to get confused with expedition, I think. An excursion. What was the definition of that? Number 4, a journey. Number 5, a tour. What was different about a tour? Number 6, an outing. Number 7, a pilgrimage. What was special about a pilgrimage? A trip. And a voyage. What particularly stood out about a voyage? What was different? And this is the last one from last week, I believe, travel. Okay, the last few are from today. We had kip. What did that mean? We had lug. What did that mean? We had backpack as a verb rather than a noun. What did that mean? Attempt. We didn't specifically talk about this one, but it was in the work, and I'm sure you know the definition. And that was that. Oh, I missed payoff, I think, but I'm sure we all know what pay is. So, did you successfully recall and practically use all of that travel vocabulary? Were you able to remember those definitions just there? If so, that's excellent. Very well done. Brilliant. Number 2, were you able to identify the main messages from the voice recording? Hopefully you were. If you were, very well done. That is excellent. Number 3, we spoke about it at the end, softening an idea to make it less precise. I gave you 5 sentences. Were you able to add words and phrases to those sentences to make it slightly less precise? If so, that's excellent, very good, well done. That will come in useful with your writing work. So that's it from the textbook today. We are now just going to have a brief talk about writing. Your writing is going to be sent out on Saturday, I believe, and your job is reporting, or to write a report. Now, you're looking specifically at music venues, an event. These are some vocab words that appear in the Google document that you're going to be sent, which I think are useful for you to be aware of before we start. Now, a lot of these are opposites. So I'm going to give you the definition of one and then see whether you can guess what the opposite meaning is. So the first one is unknown act. An act is a singer or a DJ or some kind of entertainer, would be known as an act. And we're talking about someone here who is unknown. Maybe they're right at the beginning of their career, or maybe they're just playing small venues. Which word on the screen at the moment, or which sort of phrase, do you think is the opposite of unknown act? Have a think. Okay, I'm going to give you the answer. If you've not quite got it just yet, please pause the video, have an extra think. If not, we'll give you the answers. It is internationally renowned. If somebody is renowned, it means they are well known. Internationally, we obviously know means in across these in different countries. So internationally renowned means known in every country, basically. So some examples of internationally renowned singers would be things like Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran, Selena Gomez, Rihanna, BTS. Those are all internationally renowned artists. The second word in that first column is badly managed. Okay, now this might be talking about a venue, or it could be talking about a band. Bands have managers and venues have managers. What do you think would be the opposite? Let's talk about a venue. A badly managed venue, what would be the opposite? Okay, if you need a few more seconds to think, please pause the video. If not, I'm going to give you the answer. The opposite of badly managed would be well run. Okay, run and managed are synonymous. We could say badly run, badly managed, well run, well managed. They mean exactly the same thing. Next up, we have got poorly equipped. Poorly equipped. Equipment. Poorly equipped means it doesn't have all of the necessary equipment that it needs. The next one is clean. I think we all know the meaning of clean. Can you guess from the list on the right which is the opposite of clean? Okay, this maybe is a new word for you. Grungy would be the word we're looking for there. A bit dirty, a bit grotty, grungy. Okay. Word number 5 is overpriced. So things there are very expensive. The prices are too high. They are overpriced. Have a look at the list on the right. This should be quite an easy one. What do you think is the opposite of overpriced? Okay, hopefully you're able to get that one. That would be reasonably priced. Fair, reasonable, obviously priced is there. Empty. We're all familiar with empty. If I were to describe a venue as empty, that would mean it is the opposite of what? Okay, hopefully you got that one fairly easily as well. That would be crowded. Empty, crowded. Crowded, very busy. Empty, nobody there. Number 9, unrehearsed. Rehearse means basically to practice. It's well practiced. So when you see musicians, if they're making lots and lots of mistakes, you might say they are unrehearsed. What do you think the opposite of that would be? Okay, there's not too many options left, so hopefully you got that. It would be polished. Okay, we're talking about performance here. When we polish something, it means we make it shiny. I polish my rings, polish my school badge sometimes, to make it shiny, to make it look good. Same thing with a performance. If you put in lots and lots of practice, you're going to make that performance kind of shiny and perfect. Okay, polished. Last one is forgettable. Forgettable. What is the opposite of forgettable? Hopefully you got that. The opposite of forgettable is memorable. Memorable. Okay, so those are the vocab words that I think are going to help you out for your writing task. These are also 2 things that would be useful to know about before you write your report. It's going to go into more detail in this on Saturday, so don't panic if you don't understand this right now. What might be nice is actually to wait until Saturday when you get that link to the Google form, and then you can maybe come back and listen to this alongside it, and maybe it will make a little bit more sense there. First thing we've got there is periphrasis. This is a technique we use in writing where we use more words than are necessary. Now, we've done a little bit of this today. Can you think when that was? Okay, if you're thinking softening phrases, you are absolutely correct. Okay, we could say, I want to go traveling in Vietnam. Or we could say, I'd kind of like to go traveling in Vietnam. It means I'm not quite so sure. we often use this, particularly in your report writing, when we're talking about something negative. So, for example, if I went and visited a place and I thought it was a bit grungy or a bit dirty, I maybe don't want to say that in my review because it's a little bit nasty. It's not the nicest thing for the venue to have to deal with. So maybe rather than saying it's dirty, I'd say something like, the venue was nice, but it could do with a clean. Something like that. I'm using a lot more words than are necessary there, but it's a bit softer, it's a bit nicer. I'm not being nasty. The second technique that you might want to use in your reports is euphemism. This is replacing negative or offensive words with something less direct. For example, when somebody dies, we don't necessarily want to say they died. We might say they passed away. It's a little bit softer. It's a little bit less direct. If you wanted to say that, I don't know, somebody smells a bit bad, you wouldn't just go, oh, you smell. Maybe you could say something like, oh, there's a new shop selling some perfume. Maybe you should go and have a look in there, or something like that. A word and phrase to make something less offensive, less direct. Okay. Again, if you're giving negative feedback to your place, this is quite a nice thing to do. Again, more detail in your writing will be coming on Saturday. So if that didn't make any sense, then don't worry. It will do when you see the Google form. It's all done really nicely. It should be easy for you to work through. And if you need to, you can always refer back to this video. Thank you for taking part in today's lesson. I hope it was enjoyable enough and that you found it beneficial. I will see you next week. Goodbye.